The race is slipping away from Kamala. She is simply not a very good candidate. Oh, yeah.
The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment conflicts.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border?
There is no difference between her and Joe Biden. Kamala Harris has done nothing. Every time she talks, her numbers go down because she is uniquely unqualified to be the commander-in-chief.
Oh, look! Oh, it makes me cringe. Right there. Oh my gosh, Tim. 4 reasons Kamala Harris is losing, and everybody's talking about it now. The polls are reflecting the reality. Kamala Harris is terrible. And so now people in the media, including The Hill, which is a very reliable lefty magazine, are telling us what they're hearing from behind the scenes. This guy says, I have spoken with 3 Democratic operatives behind the scenes who all believe the race is slipping away from Kamala. They offer 4 major reasons why this is happening. This is great. The first is Harris herself. She is simply not a very good candidate. Oh, yeah. Obviously, she lacks confidence and is seemingly terrified to take any unrehearsed or unvetted policy questions. This liability is not a surprise to those of us who follow politics closely, but is a new concern for a number of voters. They're all watching her going, wait. Is she dumb? Does she know anything about policy? This unsteadiness and insecurity were initially on display when she was the first candidate to embarrassingly flame out in 2020, which we all remember. Now, in a deja vu moment of clarity, voters and donors and Democratic power brokers are being reminded of that just a short 4 years ago. The second reason that Harris is slipping is her record. So she's terrible, and her record confirms it. It's weighing her down, dragging her down. Harris made this problem worse by tying herself to Biden. In an interview this week on ABC, which we saw on The View, even though the purpose of this puff piece was to make her look good, the question was, would you have done anything differently than Biden, Kamala, during the past 4 years? She says, well, no, there's not a thing that comes to mind. Not a thing. The screams of shock and disappointment from the Harris campaign, the mainstream media, and the Democratic elites after hearing that reply should have set off seismometers all over the DC area. Not surprisingly, Team Trump has been playing that answer on loop. Not a thing, not a thing, not a thing. They are beyond thrilled that she just spot welded herself for the rest of that campaign to Joe Biden. And that's just the 2 bad reasons, 2 big reasons. 1, she's terrible. 2, her policies are terrible, and she loves them. She's sticking there with Joe. 3rd, we come to the same issue that ultimately ended Ron DeSantis. It's virtually impossible to run against a, quote, cult of personality, which is what Trump has going for him. All right. So like it or not, admit it or not, Trump has the elusive it factor. That is true, man. That is true. Now, you can't buy it. You can't create it, or you can't fake it. You either have it or you don't. It's true. This won him the presidency in 2016 and saw him come within a whisker of winning in 2020 while setting the all-time popular vote tally for a sitting president. And now it has more and more voters believing he will win a substantial victory next month. And Harris, like Ron, is marching straight into the teeth of a cult of personality campaign. It's called MAGA, baby! That started the race with tens of millions of votes in the bank. Now, finally, we have the issue of the Democratic operatives I spoke with. They believe this is the most devastating for Harris, really. Now, the old question, which is, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? We all ask ourselves that. Now, the problem for Harris is that potentially millions of Americans within the Democrats' core constituencies not only believe they were better off 4 years ago under Trump, but they think that they and their families are being crushed now by Biden and Harris. Dun, dun, dun. And so under that scenario, what is pragmatic? Realistic? What are they supposed to do? For some, it's to prepare for the Harris loss, regroup, and to start vetting. Those I've spoken to also fear, these are Democratic insiders, that Harris and the party in general have veered too far to the left. You're kidding. To appease the far left wing within the party, right? Chopping genitals off and 9-month abortions when the baby's poking his head out. Now, they fear this is not only contributing to the predicted Harris loss, but hurting Democratic candidates across the board. Yeah. And next month goes as I believe it will. Come 2028, Vice President J.D. Vance will be leading the nominee for the Republicans. Will Ron DeSantis challenge him? Maybe. But those I speak with believe the Republican bench is deep and powerful no matter what. They believe the Democrats will have to pick a more centrist candidate in 2028 if they hope to compete for the White House. However, to make that a reality, they're going to have to find the courage and the strength they don't have any, to stand up to their far left wing of their own party. It's a rare, rare thing for people to abandon the Democratic Party. More often than not, the standard is to just double down on their ideology. But we've seen it happen. We saw Anna Kasparian has now bailed because she's recognized that the people that are coming after her on her own side are just the absolute worst. She was sexually assaulted by some homeless guy, and people on her own side are like, how dare you talk badly about the homeless people? She woke up. Hopefully more Democrats are waking up and join in on making America great again. It doesn't have to be this way. So JD Vance was crushing over the weekend. Take a look at this video. 8.1 million views. That's a lot. Now, before we carry on, let's talk about testosterone. Most guys think their testosterone is being drained by aging, bad genetics, maybe even a lack of exercise. But what if that's not the case? What if it's the food? And what if it's something you've been told that is healthy that you've been eating? This one food has been scientifically shown to devastate testosterone levels, and most men have no idea. It's not junk food, it's not sugar, it's something way more unexpected, and just eating it a few times a week is enough to wreck your testosterone, drain your energy, and crush your motivation. But here's the good news. Cutting this one thing out of your diet could completely transform the way you feel, and our friends at V-Shred have seen firsthand how it's helped their clients. Guys who stopped eating this started building muscle, burning fat, and feeling more energized than they have in years. And V-Shred created this video that you can see right here that reveals exactly what this testosterone killing food is and why you need to get rid of it. So head on over to sculptnation.com/Robert. Again, that's sculptnation.com/Robert. Link is down in the description below, and the guys at V-Shred explain exactly how this works. You're not going to want to miss it, so check the link down in the description below. Now, this is what he said with Martha Raddatz, one of the weirdest people in media, who has been doing this for so long. Sometimes I wonder, how have they been on TV? Is it just because they've been on for so long and they just don't want to move them around and they're just reliable sycophants for whatever they put on the teleprompter? What, they just they don't have really real cognitive capabilities or faculties? I don't know. But this clip is quite shocking that this is even something that a journalist like this in America is talking about. And JD Vance hits it out of the park.
The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns.
Just a couple gangs taking over a couple apartment buildings. That's it.
Handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border? Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be. And I really find this exchange, Martha, sort of interesting because you seem to be more focused with nitpicking everything that Donald Trump has said rather than acknowledging that apartment complexes in the United States of America are being taken over by violent gangs. I worry so much more about that problem than anything else here. We've got to get American communities in a safe space again. And unfortunately, when you let people in by the millions, most of whom are unvetted, most of whom you don't know who they really are, you're going to have problems like this. Kamala Harris, 94 executive orders that undid Donald Trump's successful border policies. We knew this stuff would happen. They bragged about opening the border, and now we have the consequences, and we're living with it. We can do so much better, but frankly, we're not going to do better, Martha, unless Donald Trump calls this stuff out. I'm glad that he did.
Yeah, I wonder if Martha would be okay if just a couple of houses in her neighborhood got taken over by Venezuelan gangs. Would she be okay if her neighbors were out there and they were doing drug deals with Hunter Biden on the front yard, wherever she lives? I don't think so. Maybe it would be a bigger deal for her. But they're okay as long as it's not their property. As long as it's yours and mine, they're fine with it. Stop your complaining, okay? So what if we get a couple buildings taken over by brutal, violent gangs? There are good people coming across too, okay? So don't be a bigot. Just let them come in your neighborhood. So, all right, that's Martha. Now, the onslaught just continued over the weekend because Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, also came out, and he was catching it from Kristen Welker, one of the most obviously transparently biased people in media and brings Johnson on. And Johnson, to his credit, did not let her get away with this garbage that they're trying to smear now as we're 3 weeks out from the election.
Harris's numbers are dropping in the polls, and she just said in her own words, you saw the tape there, there is no difference between her and Joe Biden. The Biden policies, Bidenomics, all the things they champion are destroying the country, and everybody knows that, and that's why Donald Trump is elected. Republicans are going to win the Senate and the House.
Mr. Speaker, we should note that FEMA funds were actually redirected on Donald Trump's watch to deal with the migrant issue. Let me ask you, you mentioned the medical records.
No, ma'am. No, wait a minute. No, that's hold on, wait a minute. Wait, facts are important. That is a new program that started in 2020 under Joe Biden. That funding wasn't necessary under Trump's administration because we secured the border. We didn't invite illegal aliens and dangerous people into the country. That's a Biden-Harris policy, and everybody knows it.
Mr. Speaker, it did happen under Donald Trump's watch, but let me just ask you about medical records since you raised them.
No, Kristen,
should Donald Trump release all of his medical records?
New account.
Should Donald Trump release all of his medical records,
he has.
Speaker?
He issued the records of his physicians. Kamala Harris issued her medical records as diversion because she's desperate because she's sinking in the polls. Yeah. Donald Trump's health is on display. Everyone in America can see it. The man works nonstop. He never quits. He probably sleeps 4 hours a night. He doesn't require as much sleep as the average person. He's an unusual figure. And this is the strength that we need in a time like this. We're in the most dangerous moment since World War II. You have to have strength. You have to have a steady hand. You have to have a commander-in-chief that our allies respect and our enemies fear. They do not fear Kamala Harris. They do fear Donald Trump.
Mr. Speaker,
that's what people are going to vote on.
Just to be very clear, he hasn't released all of his medical records. He released 2 letters. Should he release the results of the cognitive test?
He's on display every minute.
So it's unnecessary. You concede that he didn't release his medical records. You don't want to know things like his cholesterol level, whether he's dealing with any issue that we may not know about, if he's going to be commander-in-chief. And he also said he would release cognitive tests.
Listen to your question.
Should he release that?
The American people, Kristen, the American people don't care about the cholesterol level of Donald Trump. They care about the cost of living and the fact they cannot pay for groceries because Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's policies have put them in that situation. The medical records are irrelevant. Let's talk about things that the American people care about. That's why Donald Trump is surging in the polls, because he's doing that on stages, in interviews, nonstop around the clock, and Kamala Harris has done nothing. Every time she talks, her numbers go down because she is uniquely unqualified to be the commander-in-chief at one of the most dangerous times in the history of the country. That's a fact.
All right, so hey, Johnson hits, man. Sometimes he hits, and he hits right there. And Kirsten, it's hilarious that now she's talking about cognitive tests and mental fitness. What? These were the people who lied to all of her audience. The entire NBC News network was part of a national and global cover-up perpetrated by the media to not bring the truth to us about Joe Biden's actual capabilities, which were in the toilet his entire presidency. And now they're going to turn around. What? Where's your cognitive exam for Trump? Meanwhile, Trump is out there talking to people. He can actually put together sentences. And he's talking to people all over the place, right? A lot of friendlies, but a lot of oppositional media too. And he's doing rallies. He's all over the place, right? So it's not even a fair comparison, but these people are so panicked. And I got to say, this approach from the Republicans between J.D. Vance and Mike Johnson, I don't know if there was a memo that went out or whatever, but they're feeling very confident. You know, their demeanor in both of these clips were excellent. Almost like they're playing around. You know, it's like a black belt playing around with like a white belt. This guy like, okay, all right. That was fun. Okay, nice move. But I don't, I'm so confident that you guys are so scrambling at this moment that it's just almost like play, right? It's like child's play. And great clips. So not letting her get away with that one either, which was a lot of fun. And so to try to get after the male vote, they sent Tim Walz out to go and apparently go hunting, even though he didn't shoot anything. And here was his exchange from his hunting trip. And there were a couple of exchanges here. And I'm not a hunter. I've not gone hunting. I've never been hunting. But I don't think what we're witnessing here was a very comfortable use of a firearm. So let's play this. And let's listen to some of this. So he's taking pictures, right? And a lot of people are watching his trigger discipline.
The dogs are working hard.
And I think that's outside, right? He's stopping, pausing photo, stopping, pausing photo. All right, there it is. Now then he starts walking, and the barrel gets a little bit low, like right there, right? Making some people nervous. See this fellow right over here, right there. Like, see that? That's where we start getting nervous. Like, what are you doing with that? See that guy? How he has his weapon, right? Kind of nice up. getting a little bit.
And we're going to flush your 12-point some point in there, right? What was that? We're going to flush the 12-point that you're getting here in November.
See, so we're taking some pictures. Then he starts walking, and he's going to tip it a little bit again.
I stood out here, and I watched 45 deer run across.
Yeah.
They must winter here.
We'll be.
So he's out there. I don't know if he fired a shot at all.
For sure.
All right.
So watch,
All right, are we ready to
watch.
You guys.
They start walking. See that?
Okay.
All right.
Oh, look! Oh, it makes me cringe.
I know.
Happens all the time here, honey.
So we were saying, Matt. When
Right
it's
there.
not
Oh
just
my
the two of
gosh,
us,
Tim.
we'll get-
All right, there we go. Much better. Much better. All right.
All right, we're gonna fall back.
Okay. So, folks, from the media.
All right, so yeah, it doesn't look exactly right. I think even if you're, at a range and you're walking around like that, even they would scold you at a range. At least the ranges I've been to, that type of positioning, you're not walking around just kind of leaving your gun loosey-goosey like that, especially when there's all those people around in that vicinity. So, all right, so a little Tim there, National Guard, carried weapons of war in war, and all the things, and he was out. Apparently, he didn't shoot anything. He took a break from the campaign trail to hunt pheasants in Minnesota and went out there. Apparently, he wanted a Mountain Dew or something. He sat on the tailgate of a red pickup truck on Saturday afternoon eating venison, talking about hunting. Secret Service team was there. Pool of digital influencers were there waiting to chat with him. Now, Walz became part of a political storm, saying he's a hunter. On Friday night, they attended a football game. Then he arrived with a Beretta shotgun, was trying to hunt a pheasant. Unfortunately, Walz didn't get a bird. He didn't even fire a shot during his time walking through the tall grass. Good for everybody, because we don't really know what Tim was doing there. Now, I had another clip of Tim, and he was just kind of demanding a Mountain Dew. Now, listen to how real and authentic this is. You know what sounds good right now while I'm out here hunting pheasants? A Diet Mountain Dew. I wonder if anybody happens to have one of those.
I'm going to grab a Diet Mountain Dew if we got one.
Oh, yeah, let us
Pound
grab
one
one.
down.
Pound one down,
The
baby.
reason why I think this is worth doing is because remember that one rooster that got up, we landed over.
Pound one down there, Tim.
He'll be there.
Yeah, we can take that, those pointing dogs and run this open cover and try and get that bird.
How many roosters did we see?
7 or 8?
Yeah.
7 or 8. They just weren't cooperating other than
in
that
the
youngster. And you know what? Youth, we just let youth go. Let youth be youth.
That was a good pass.
All right, got a pheasant hunt out there, and I'm going to go and shoot some birds, even though it didn't shoot anything. And there were some interesting clips of him pretending like he was out there hunting. So lots of photos. They think that, I guess, men are so stupid that they can put Tim in an orange jumpsuit, send him out there, and a bunch of Minnesotans are going to be like, wow, he's one of us. Wow, we can't wait to vote for Kamala. Wow. Okay, because they think, I guess, men are idiots. Now, Time magazine has not been able to get an interview with Kamala. They said despite multiple requests, Time has not been granted an interview with Harris, unlike every other presidential candidate that's granted us one. We believe in transparency and publish each interview in full. Why isn't Kamala engaging with us? And they actually published that in their piece. They said in the piece itself, they wrote a piece about her, and they said she has refused to be interviewed. Joe Biden got interviewed. Donald Trump did their interview. And so Kamala is basically hiding at this point, and the polls look terrible. Trump's doing much better with these key demographics, these core constituencies that Harris absolutely needs to win. And here are what the numbers look like from CNN.
And sometimes there's a trend line that I never noticed before and make me go, whoa, this is one of them, all right? This is the Democratic margin among black men under the age of 45 in presidential elections. You go back to November of 2012, what do you see? You see Obama by 81. Clinton only won him by 63. Then we're all the way down to Biden last time around by 53. A tremendous drop already. And then you take a look at the average of the most recent polls, and Kamala Harris is up by only 41 points. That is about half the margin that Obama won them by back in November of 2012. Yikes. And this, I think, is, when Barack Obama goes in last week when he was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, essentially talking to young black men, he made it seem like it was a Kamala Harris specific problem. This is part of a long-standing trend of young black men moving away from the Democratic Party, and Kamala Harris is just the latest to face that MAGA magnitude of younger black men going towards the Republicans.
That was most interesting here is the trend line and where some of the biggest drops happened or already happened in this case. How about black men overall?
It's part of the same picture. You know, we're looking once again, if younger black men, it looks like the worst Democratic performance since 1960, since JFK versus Richard Nixon. It's the same thing among black men overall. Again, part of a similar trend, but here actually the drop-off isn't as dramatic, right? Barack Obama won him by 85, then you see 71 with Clinton, 69, Biden, basically the same thing, holding steady. But here, again, very, very weak, only a 54-point margin. Now, again, still winning him by a large margin, but considerably lower than what we're used to, certainly considerably lower what we had during the Obama years. The bottom line is Kamala Harris with younger black men and then black men overall putting in historically weak performance for a Democratic candidate.
Is she getting any relief with black women?
All right. So, you know, we're talking about the trend line, right? And black women, look, she's doing better with black women than she is doing among black men. But here, there isn't a trend line almost until we get to Kamala Harris. So, again, this is a black margin among black women. Look, Obama won him by 93, very large margin. Clinton won him by 93, a very large margin. Biden did a little bit worse at 85. But then you look here, and you get a 71-point margin. Now, again, these are large margins, but the bottom line is when you're talking about the base of the Democratic Party, you would think that Kamala Harris would do very well among black women based on...
Yeah, especially because she says she is a black woman. I mean, shouldn't that be like 99%? Shouldn't that be like plus 99 points? Not to generalize or stereotype, but it's like the key demographic, right? That's why they make Disney movies and they match everybody up so that you can identify with the character. That's me. That's you. I'm the princess, right? All the things. It's even less with black women than Obama? How is that? That is misogyny, I think, as far as I can tell.
Upon history, and of course she would be the first black woman president, but she's actually doing the worst for a Democratic candidate among black women since 1960, if this holds, John.
And again, when you look at the numbers here, whenever you come in, looking at the trends is probably the most important thing.
You got it, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Trends. All right, amazing numbers. So shout out to all our brothers and sisters who are joining us on the Trump train this election cycle. We're excited to have you here, and it's going to be amazing. And this is also being reported over from another decision desk. What is this? NBC News is saying the same thing. Look at these numbers, baby. It is close, and they are getting nervous.
Chef. Yeah, exactly, Savannah. I mean, just look at them side by side, and you can see it. Remember that poll we took a month ago that you see here? It was just after that first Trump-Harris debate. Since then, we've had the VP debate. There have been some campaign activities, some interviews, some things that have changed in that time. I think this might be the biggest for Harris. We just asked the basic image perception people have. Is it positive or negative of these candidates? The Trump number's always been somewhere in this territory. In fact, this is a little bit high for him, believe it or not, 43% positive. But look at Harris, 43 positive, 49 negative. The significance, we polled this a month ago. She was 48% positive and 45 negative. She was above water, as they say. That's completely reversed. It now looks very similar to Trump's. That's a pretty big shift when you're talking about a race this close. And then there's the weight of the fact she's the VP in an unpopular administration. We asked about President Biden's policies. Are they helping or hurting your family? Just a quarter of voters said they're helping. Nearly half said they're hurting. And then here's the interesting twist. We also asked folks, think back to when Donald Trump was president. Did his policies help or hurt your family? And look at the difference. 44% helping, 31 hurting. Trump's, the retrospective, you would say, opinion of Trump's presidency among voters, arguably higher now than when he was president.
Amazing numbers, and people are realizing this. I do think that the more they get to know Kamala, the worse this is going to get for their campaign. Great news for Team Trump. Of course, we'll keep an eye on these numbers.